جوارك عن الآثام، عنصر الآثام. نعم أنا أخطأت. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. We will read inshallah from page number 56, and that will be chapter 6 inshallah in the book titled Good Manners.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. كتاب رسالة آداب قلوب النبي إمام الشيخ الإسلام كتب الدعوة الإرشاد الحبيب عبد الله بن علي بن الحداد حضر من الشافعي رحمه الله تعالى نفعنا به وبعلومه في الدارين آمين. رضي الله تعالى عنه قال: وينبغي للمريد أن يكون أبعد الناس عن المعاصي والمحظورات وأحفظهم من الفرائض والمأمورات وأحرصهم على القربات وأسرعهم إلى الخيرات، فإن المريد لم يتميز عن غيره من الناس إلا بالإقبال على الله وعلى طاعته وتفرغ عن كل ما يشغله عن عبادته، وليكن شحيحا على أنفاسه بخيلا بأوقاته لا يصرف منها قليلا ولا كثيرا إلا فيما يقربه من ربه ويعود عليه بالنفع في معاده. وينبغي أن يكون له ورد من كل نوع من العبادات يواظب عليها ولا يسمح بترك شيء منها في عسر ولا يسر، فليكثر من تلاوة القرآن العظيم مع تدبر معانيه وترتيل لألفاظه، وليكن ممتلئا بعظمة المتكلم عند تلاوة كلامه، ولا يقرأ كما يقرأ الغافلون الذين يقرؤون القرآن بألسنة فصيحة أو أصوات عالية وقلوب من الخشوع وتعظيم الله خالية، يقرؤونه كما أنزل فاتحته إلى خاتمته ولا يدرون معناه ولا يعلمون لأي شيء أنزل، ولو علموا لعملوا، فإن العلم ما نفعه، وما عمل فليس بينه وبين جاهل فرق إلا من حيث إن حجة الله عليه آكد، وعلى هذا يكون جاهل أحسن حالا منه. ولذلك قيل: كل علم لا يعود عليك نفعه فالجهل أعود عليك منه. وليكن لك أيها المريد حظ من التهجد، فإن الليل وقت الخلوة العبادة عبده مع مولاه، فأكثر فيه من التضرع والاستغفار وناجي ربك بلسان الذلة والاضطرار عن قلب متحقق بنهاية العجز وغاية الانكسار، واحذر أن تدع في قيام الليل فلا يأتي عليك وقت السحر إلا وأنت مستيقظ ذاكر لله سبحانه وتعالى.
الحمد لله. حمدا نستمطر بها سحائب جوده وإفضاله ومنه ونواله، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وآله صلاة وسلاما دائمين متلازمين إلى يوم الدين. ورضي الله تعالى عن مشايخنا ووالدينا وأسلافنا والمسلمين أجمعين. أما بعد، فيواصل الإمام الحداد في كتابه رسالة آداب سلوك المريد في فصل يتحدث فيه عن كيف للمريد أن يبتعد عن المعاصي والمحظورات، وأن يجتنب كل ما يسقط الله سبحانه وتعالى. فيقول: وينبغي للمريد أن يكون أبعد الناس عن المعاصي والمحظورات. الإمام الحداد, in his book titled رسالة آداب سلوك المريد or آداب سلوك المريد, he says, a disciple should be the furthest of people from sins and forbidden acts, and most conscientious in carrying out his obligations, the most eager to do the most eager to do what draws him near to Allah, and the swiftest in performing acts of goodness. That is the life of a murid. If you hear that, then that is essentially what a murid is. The long and the short of it is, a murid should be a person who is swift in performing good deeds and is furthest away from evil, from haram. كان النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أبعد الناس عن الإثم. Comes in the hadith, the companions describe Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They say that Rasulullah was the furthest person away from sin, from wrong. أبعد الناس. If you would see sin, the person who's the furthest away from sin is Rasulullah. He would not be close to sin, let alone committing a sin. وهكذا, and in that way, a murid is a person. He does not find himself in places where Allah had prohibited him from, and he's not absent from places where Allah has commanded him to be. أن تجد نفسك حيث أمرك الله وأن يفتقدك حيث نهاك. You should find yourself there where Allah had commanded you to be, and He should miss you. You should be absent where He has prohibited you from it. هذا هو المريد. أما المريد الذي يقول أريد وجه الله وأريد رضا الله وأريد محبة الله وأريد القرب من حبيب الله. As for the murid who says, I desire Allah and I desire the love of Allah and the closeness of Allah and the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and closeness to him, ولكنه أقرب الناس من المحظورات وأبعدهم عن المأمورات. هذا غافل. متغافل. A person who says, I desire those things, but when you look for him, you see he's the closest to sin, furthest away from good. He's a liar. He's a liar. أحب الله. He does what Allah Ta'ala dislikes. أحب رسول الله. I love Rasulullah. But he doesn't perform, he doesn't act upon the sunnahs. He doesn't follow the lifestyle. And therefore, معروف الكرخي, he said, ماتت قلوبكم بعشرة أشياء. He said, your heart died when you came to Basra. The people of Basra told him, oh Sayyidina, give us advice. So he says, ماتت قلوبكم بعشرة أشياء. Your hearts died on account of 10 things. And from among those 10 things that he said, زعمتم أنكم تحبون الله. You claim that you love Allah, but you did not do things that causes Allah Ta'ala to be pleased with you. You did not follow His commands. You claim that Shaitan is your enemy, but you didn't stay away from what Allah prohibited you. You followed Shaitan, you followed his path, you followed his trickery, you followed his treachery. You obeyed him. He says, إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌ فَاتَّخِذُوهُ عَدُوًّا. Shaitan is your enemy. So take him as an enemy. What do you do with an enemy? Do you sit with him and do you sit with the enemy and go drink a cup of coffee and go out with him and play with him and befriend him? You say, he's my enemy. When you see him, you are my enemy. Fight him. Oppose him. Challenge him. If he say do so, you say, I'm not going to do so, I'm going to go so. He said go right, I'm going to go left. Why are you going to go just so because you said right, I'm going to go left? That is the enemy. I oppose him. وَخَالِفِ النَّفْسَ وَالشَّيْطَانَ وَعْصِهِمَا وَإِنْهُمَا مَحَّضَاكَ النُّصْحَ فَاتَّهِمِ. Al-Imam Busayri says in his Burda, oppose your nafs and oppose shaitan. And if they advise you, then don't obey them. Accuse them of wanting to harm you. وَلَا تُطِعْ مِنْهُمَا خَصْمًا فَأَنْتَ تَعْرِفُ كَيْدَ الْخَصْمِ وَالْحَكَمِ. And don't obey them, your nafs and shaitan. خَصْمًا وَلَا حَكَمًا. Whether they are your opponent or whether they are your arbitrator. Whether they claim to be against you or for you. Don't obey them. وَإِنْهُمَا مَحَّضَاءً فأنت تعرف كيد الخصم الحق. For you know what the end result is of a person who is an opponent. Your opponent. He wants to see you down. He wants to see him up. He wants to see you lose and he wants to see himself victorious. He wants to see you fall and he wants to see him grow. He wants to see you degraded and he wants to see him elevated. That is shaitan. So when Allah says, إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌ, is your enemy. He says, فَاتَّخِذُوهُ عَدُوًّا. Take him as your enemy. Why is it you not take him as your enemy? You say, تَزْعُمُونَ أَنَّهُ عَدُوكُمْ. You claim and allege it is your enemy, but you follow shaitan. فهذا المريد is the furthest people away from it. Now, what makes a murid, a disciple, a person who desires Allah and His Prophet, what makes him stand out from others? Nothing except إلا الإقبال على الله وعلى طاعته والتفرغ عن كل ما يشغله عن عبادته. The only thing that makes a murid stand out from others is that he is constantly approaching Allah. He is constantly approaching Allah. When people approach dunya, he approaches Allah. When people run to the wealth, he runs to Allah. وَقَالَ إِنِّي ذَاهِبٌ إِلَىٰ رَبِّي سَيَهْدِينِ. He says, I'm going to my Lord. I'm going to my Allah. And eventually, when they said, Ya Musa, إِنَّا لَمُدْرَكُونَ أو Musa, Fir'aun is going to catch up with us. What did Nabi Musa say? كَلَّا إِنَّ مَعِيَ رَبِّي سَيَهْدِينِ. I have Allah on my side. Allah is going to guide me. How can Allah be on our side if we have not taken a path to Allah? إِنَّ هَذِهِ تَذْكِرَةٌ فَمَنْ شَاءَ اتَّخَذَ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِ سَبِيلًا. Remember, these are reminders. And whoever of you wishes and wills, let him take a path to Allah. Let him approach Allah. Don't approach the dunya. Don't approach people. Approach Allah. When you want to ask Allah. When you need assistance, seek assistance from Allah. When you desire anything, ask Allah. Ask Allah. Ask Allah. وَسَلِ الَّذِي أَبْوَابُهُ لَا تُحْجَرُ. The poet says, never ask human beings for anything. Don't ask people for anything. And if you want to ask Allah, the one whose doors never ever closes. Allah's doors are always open. الله يغضب إن تركت سؤاله وبني آدم حين يسأل يغضب. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He becomes angry if you don't ask Him. And human beings, they become angry when you do ask Him. You ask a person, first time He gives you. Second time, third time He gives you. Fourth time, you mark no less from yourself. No? Okay, yeah. Allah ta'ala says, بل إن الله يحب العبد الذي يلح في الدعاء. إن الله يحب الملحين في الدعاء. Allah loves those who persist in their dua. Same thing, the same. Allah loves it. Ask the same thing. Allah gives you, ask more. Oh Allah, grant me help. Ask every day, Allah, grant me help. Grant me, Allah, every day, grant me hidayah. Allah, grant me forgiveness. Allah, grant me. Allah loves people who persist in their dua. وَلْيَكُنْ شَحِيحًا عَلَى الْفَاسِقِ. So a murid is the one who frees himself from everything that distracts him from ibadah. And then he says, let him spin his breaths carefully. Let him spin his breaths carefully. بخيلا بأوقاته لا يصرف منها قليلا ولا كثيرا إلا فيما يقربه من ربه ويعود عليه بنفع المعاد. Be careful, be very strict and careful with your breaths. Your breaths. Every inhale, every exhale, you're going to be asked for. And when you inhale, it means you want less breath closer to death. When you exhale, it means you want exhale closer to death. So imagine the person who's spending his breath in and out, and he doesn't he's not holding himself accountable. These breaths that Allah has given me, what have I done to benefit me in the day of Qiyamah? What have I done through these breaths that Allah has given me to attain Allah's pleasure? But He gives you breath after breath after breath after breath, heartbeat after heartbeat, eyes, ears, ni'mah after ni'mah, ni'mah above ni'mah, ni'mah within a ni'mah. Allah gives all of that. How many of those favors have I fulfilled the haqq? Simple question. The ni'mah of course of the eyesight. Through the eyesight I was able to see how Salah must be performed. Able to read the Quran, able to look at the Salihin, I was able to eat, I was able to earn a living, everything I did on account of my ni'mah. And had Allah taken it away, life would have been very difficult. How much times have we thanked Allah for our eyes? Just say, oh Allah. Just a gratitude, acknowledging, oh Allah, acknowledge that the favor of my eyesight, had it not been for you, Ya Allah, I would have been blind. And I would not have been able to do half of the things I'm doing. Oh Allah, I thank you and I'm grateful to you for my ni'mah. I'm grateful to you. Times. And that is for one ni'mah. For one ni'mah of eyesight. What about the other ni'mahs? So he says, وَلْيَكُنْ شَحِيحًا عَلَى الْفَقْرِ. Let him be careful with regard to his breaths. بَخِيلًا بِأَوْقَاتِهِ. Stingy when it comes to his time. Stingy when it comes to his time. What does it mean when it comes to his time? Meaning that the way people today are, they're stingy with their money. That's how the Salihin are with their time. The Salihin with their time are the way the wealth are today with their money. They come to you and tell you, need 100 and say, what? The 1,000, what? Then you say, you look like a bank, you look like an ATM thing. ATM thing. But he can sit with you and he can speak with you for 2 or 3 hours about a whole lot of nothing. After the 2 or 3 hours, what did you do? What did you speak about? What did you been? What did you? Ons gepraat van die en van die en 'n bietjie van alles en 'n klomp van niks. But those 2 hours Allah's going to ask you about. So how was the Salihin? Salihin says, look at this. My time is full. My day is full. I don't have time. Do you want something from me? Take money. Take my money. But just leave my time. Leave my time. I don't have time. My time is directly master. If you're coming to ask me something beneficial, that's fine. And Imam al-Haddad, he used to have a way in which because his time was so, and when you speak about, if you want to understand what it means for a person's time to be fully, he's fully occupied within his time. You must look at a person like Sayyid al-Habib. And you must just live with him one day, live with him a day of his life. Go and spend from the morning all the way with him until the night and see what he's doing. He's no time. There's no time. And the free time that he's sitting when he's driving a car, he's busy reading a book, or someone is busy reading a book to him. Or he's busy catching up on his awrad. Or he's busy making adhkar. Or he's busy reading Quran. Or he's busy answering a phone call, someone's asking an istiftah. There's no time that he just sits in the idles. No time. And eventually when you think, mashallah, Isha's finished, the classes are finished, the programs are finished, the mawlids are finished, this is finished, he's on his way home now. It happened to me on more than one occasion. Then I walk past his home just to realize that there's another gathering inside his home. He's meeting with some Western students, or some African students, or he's meeting with ulama, or he's meeting with delegation that came from a certain area, or some people want to speak to him about some spiritual issues, or some of their personal affairs, or just continues like that. When you think that when you go and you go to bed and rest, then they are still busy. And when they're done with creation, then they dedicate themselves to the Creator Allah. And that was Rasulullah when he used to enter his home, he used to split his time into three. His time within his home was split into three. So, maybe a misconception for some females say, as die man in die huis inkom, almal jou tyd is myne. Jy moet niks aan vat, dit is nou my tyd. Rasulullah kana yuqassimu waqtahu aw yujazzi'uha thalatha. He used to split his time into three when he enters his home. 1/3 for his family, 1/3 for himself, and 1/3 for his Rabb. And the time that was for himself, he used to also give it to his Rabb. So give it to Allah Ta'ala. Between his family and his Rabb. So he used to say, oh Aisha, is there anything you need? Is there anything you desire? She should say, Ya Rasulullah, you know I desire closeness to you. But I know that you being close to Allah is more beloved to you. So I'll sacrifice my comfort so that you can be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وليكن لا بخيلا بأوقاته لا يصرف منها قليلا ولا كثيرا. نعم, so Imam al-Haddad had a way in which he used to test people's seriousness in wanting to see. Because most people today, or many people today, they have nothing to say except waste time. Because they don't have anything to do. So now they don't know what to do with the time. Now they want to waste other people's time. So Imam al-Haddad used to test that. How did Imam al-Haddad test that? He used to tell he's the person that used to, when they used to ask him to see him, and he used to tell them if they want to see me, they must pay money. Must pay. And if they give you money, then I'll see them. Then people used to come and say, I want to see, to speak to your Haddad. I said, it's going to cost you 1,000 rand to see. I said, 1,000 rand? Alright. I don't need to see him, it's fine. I'm to see him Haddad. It's going to cost you 1,000 rand to see him. Ask. I will speak to my wife. I will speak to my kid and ask him the same thing. I can ask the Imam next to me at the masjid. And then people eventually started asking, see, you want people to pay you money to see you? Why? You were the one that saying denounce dunya, this, that, but you say that people must pay money to come and see you. He says, no, I say, we don't desire the money, but we just desire to see how serious they are to meet us. If they're willing to be, he said, our time is the most valuable thing we possess. The people of the dunya, their wealth is the most valuable thing they possess. So if they're willing to spend what is valuable to them, I will spend what is valuable to me. The people of the dunya, the most valuable to them is their money. But me, my time is more valuable. If they're willing to sacrifice what is valuable to them, I will sacrifice what is valuable to me. If they're not going to sacrifice what is valuable to them, then it's still need to be sacrificed. وينبغي أن يكون له ورد من كل نوع من العبادات يواظب عليها. Imam al-Haddad continues and he says that a person should have a daily wird of every kind of worship, so that he will have a number of those to hold on to, and never allow any of them to be neglected. A number of those to hold on to tenaciously and never allow any of them to be neglected, however difficult his circumstances. What is a wird? What is a wird? What is a Latin? You translated wird. What is a wird? Huh? Anyone? Something you do every day. A wird is an action that is generally performed regularly. A wird comes from the root letter warada. Warada is to approach. A mawrid is a place where a person is the ismul makan for warada. Mawrid is the place that you are approaching. Wird is the action, is the manner in which he is approaching. The meaning of it is, when they speak about wird, a person who is constantly approaching the source where he receives his sustenance from. But it's not a physical sustenance, it's a spiritual sustenance. So your wird in tasawwuf would mean your place, your adhkar or your ibadat that you would perform that would bring you spiritual sustenance. That will cause you, that will result in you receiving spiritual sustenance. That would be your wird. And it will be something that you perform regularly. It will be certain, whether it's Quran ayat, whether it is tahleel, istighfar, salawat upon the Prophet, but it's done regularly. And every murid must have a wird. Different words Imam has. Quran, you must have a wird of salah on the Prophet, salawat upon the Rasul. You must have a wird of nafil sunnah salah. You must have a wird of adhkar that he performs day and night. You must have a wird of sadaqah that he gives. You must have a wird of sunnah of Rasulullah that he performs, classes of knowledge that he sits in. You must have a wird of it every single day. You must. And they say, Man lam yakun lahu wird, fahuwa qird. The one who does not have a wird, is a qird. What's a qird? Monkey. The one who doesn't have a wird, is a qird. Why? Because he's just living life just like an animal. He just does. Like an animal goes there, comes there, he has no purpose in life. Tomorrow he sees the car, he jumps on the car, he steals the food, then he goes and jumps in the tree and eats the bananas, and then he goes there and he has no program for himself. He has no objective in life. He has no maqsad in life. No maqsad in life. And when people do certain things, and he does it, monkey see, monkey do. When someone does something, he does. Man lam yakun lahu wird, fahuwa qird. The one who doesn't have a why? Because the one who has a wird has a purpose. The one who has a wird has an objective. The one who has a wird is not living life just haphazardly. He lives with an objective. نعم. ولا يسمح بترك شيء منها في حسن ولا يسر. He shouldn't leave it in any way. And his heart should be filled when reading the Quran with the greatness of the one who was speaking, which is Allah, the speaker Allah. When he reads the Quran, okay, after now, what did you benefit? What did you benefit? Did the Quran penetrate your heart? Did the meanings penetrate your heart? Did you ponder about the meanings? Or when you're reading, or the person reads, okay, what did Allah say? Quran, different riwayas, different maqams, being from the one to the Sika, from the Sika to the Bayati, Bayati to Rast, and the different Jawabs and Jawab al-Jawab. MashaAllah, Jameel. Allah, iftah alayk ya Sheikh. MashaAllah. Allahu Akbar. What did Allah say? What did Allah actually tell me now? That you're reading, what did Allah say? So what are we doing? Reading the Quran. Is Allah speaking to himself? Allah revealed the Quran to himself or to you? To who did he reveal the Quran? To you. For what? So you can read the Quran like people read. One thing that they like in the marathon, reading marathon, let's see who can read the Quran. Or see how much problems you can finish. Well, Allah says, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. As Allah says, do they not ponder on the Quran? Do not reflect upon the Quran? MashaAllah. Every day I read 10 ajza, I finish a khatam within 3 days. MashaAllah. Okay. And what did you ponder about Allah's kalam? Did kalam have impact in you? I said that you find that the huffaz, many of the huffaz, they probably from amongst the worst people that commit sins. The worst sinners. And not from the worst of people. They're from the worst sinners. Except for the reason that the Quran didn't enter their hearts. And if the Quran had entered their hearts, it would have reformed their life. You would have seen a big difference between a person who's hafid and not a hafid. Today you see a big difference between the two is. See a person who's hafid at times, he commits sins that a person who's not hafid does not even commit. But may Allah save us and protect us. Quran is the kalam of Allah. And a person who reads the Quran doesn't change his life. The Prophet had spoken to him. And the Prophet says, you would find a reader of the Quran and the Quran is cursing him. You would find a reader of the Quran and the Quran is cursing him. How? He says, أَلَا لَعْنَةُ اللَّهِ عَلَى الظَّالِمِينَ. أَلَا لَعْنَةُ اللَّهِ عَلَى الظَّالِمِينَ. The la'nu. And they say, Allah. What's the meaning of Allah? He says, Allah's curse is upon the oppressors. And he's an oppressor. أَلَا لَعْنَةُ اللَّهِ عَلَى الْكَاذِبِينَ. Allah's curse is upon the liars. And he's a liar. So he's actually cursing his own self. He's cursing his own self. Save us and protect us, yeah. We find the Quran today, mashallah, reading different, in beautiful, melodious voices. And the people that are sitting there listening, but all they are listening to is just the melodies. The person is here, the Sheikh reads, and he says, he reads ayahs of punishment and of Jahannam, and he reads في سموم وحميم وظل من يحموم. Speak about the fire of Jahannam and about the boiling water and the heat of, and they say, Allah, MashaAllah. First they read about Jahannam and say, MashaAllah, Allah, iftah alayk, Allah increase you. Allah increase you. Increase you in what? In punishment. In what? Increase you in what? When the Prophet ﷺ, when he used to pass ayahs of punishment, he used to ask Allah to protect him. He said, أعوذ بالله من غضب الله, أعوذ بالله من عذاب الله, اللهم أجرنا من النار. When he comes past the ayah of Jahannam, then he says, اللهم أدخلنا الجنة, اللهم إنا نسألك الجنة. He used to ask Allah to give him Jannah. He used to come past ayahs of mercy, he used to ask Allah for his mercy. One of the Qur'an he was reading and one of our teachers was sitting in. One of the Qur'an was reading at the Qur'an program. And then he stopped at the verses in Surah Al-Furqan. He was reading, and then he came to وَالَّذِينَ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا صِرِفْ عَنَّا عَذَابَ جَهَنَّمَ إِنَّ عَذَابَهَا كَانَ غَرَامًا إِنَّهَا سَاءَتْ مُسْتَقَرًّا وَمُقَامًا. About the severity of Jahannam, and those who say, oh Allah, save us from Jahannam, and the punishment of Jahannam, and it's an evil place, and even about صَدَقَ اللَّهُ. So I just told him, hey, come here. How can you stop there by eyes of Jahannam? Continue. وَالَّذِينَ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا. Continue, stop there. So on the verse of Jahannam, focus, ponder. Read, wonder what you read. Establish a connection with the words of Allah through the meanings, understanding the kalam of Allah. May Allah Ta'ala grant us understanding. Ameen, ameen. Chapter 3, we finished chapter 3. We read chapter 3. We started reading. Where did we stop? Now, on page number 16. Fatima the Resplendent radiallahu ta'ala anha was growing and reached the age of 12. Reading from the book titled Our Liege Lady Fatima alayha salam radiallahu ta'ala anha wa ardaha. At the age of 12, in the 7th year after the start of the prophetic mission, meaning after Rasulullah received prophethood, when the people of Makkah agreed upon an evil view, they resolved to draw up a document pledging to place an interdiction on the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This was known as the year of the Hisar, the year of embargo. The year of embargo, when there was an embargo placed upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Shi'ab of Bani Hashim. In the Shi'ab of Bani Hashim. And they placed an embargo on the Prophet ﷺ, so the Messenger ﷺ entered a narrow valley, Abu Talib, pass of Abu Talib. And with him, the clans of Hashim and Talib, amongst them Muslims and non-Muslims, the people of Makkah cut them off, neither selling to them, no buying from them. The embargo, as a result, afflicted them. The Messenger ﷺ went in with Khadija bint Khuwaylid, who has been just days before the absolute wealthiest of the wealthy in Makkah and the richer than Makkah's men and women, such that it was said that her wealth equaled the wealth of Quraysh. The wealth of Sayyidina Khadija, her wealth alone was equal to the wealth of the entire Quraysh. Can you imagine how wealthy she was? Take all of Quraysh together and put all the wealth, and her wealth was equal to these, just hers alone. That was the wealth that Sayyidina Khadija had, radiallahu ta'ala anha. And here she was now in the blockade, in the valley of Abu Talib, and there they starved terribly. A night would pass, and 2 nights, no food, no shelter, until the situation reached the point of them eating 3 leaves. They started eating 3 leaves in that. So what happened was the Prophet ﷺ called Quraysh. Quraysh attempted to silence Rasulullah ﷺ by different ways. Some tried to assassinate him, at times threatening him, at times punishing his companions, so many things, at times inflicting harm upon his family, different types, at times humiliating him in public humiliation. Nothing worked. Rather, the Prophet ﷺ continued his da'wah, and he said, Wallahi la wada'u shamsa fi yamini wal qamara fi yasari ana atruka hadha al-amr ma taraktuhu hatta yudhirahu Allah wa uhlaka. I take an oath by Allah, if they were to put the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left hand, in order for me to leave what I'm doing, I would not leave it until Allah destroys, until I die, or Allah Ta'ala manifests the deen of Islam. I'm going to grow. So they tried everything. Eventually, they came to the decision the only way we can do this is we place an embargo. What's an embargo? A sanction. They said that all of them must leave Makkah, they must go to the Shi'ab of Abu Talib. It was a valley, and they must be there in the mountains, and they placed then an embargo upon them, meaning no one blockade on them, no one comes in, no one goes out. No one trades with him, buys from them, and no one sells to them. No one gets married to them, and they don't marry him from outside. So they weren't allowed to marry or get married from anyone outside. No one was allowed to buy or sell from him. No one was allowed to bring anything in or take anything out. A complete blockade was placed upon them. And this was signed by Quraysh, the heads of Quraysh. They signed a sahifa, they signed an agreement. Yeah, this is what all the heads of Quraysh, of the tribes of Quraysh agreed upon, and they all signed it. And they said that we're going to place the blockade on Bani Hashim and Banu Abdul Muttalib. And they hung it on the Kaaba. They hung it. They hung the sahifa at the Kaaba. And this continued. Sayyidina Khadija, being the wealthiest person, entering into that situation, they had no food because no one wanted to sell to them. Once the provisions were finished, it was finished. So there was no food. Children weren't eating, they were undernourished, people were dying on account of hunger. The only thing that they found to eat was the leaves on the trees. They started eating leaves on the trees, to a point where the companions describe and they say that our dropping started looking like the dropping of an animal. Because animals eat the leaves, meaning that's all we ate. To a point that our droppings started looking like the droppings of an animal. Until this situation, the ban was not for a week, never lasted for 1 week. Not for a month. The ban drew close to nearly 3 years. 3 years under the situation. If 12-year-old Sayyidatina Fatima awoke up, you would hear the crying of starving children, starving infants. She woke up. Right? She woke up at that tender age of 12 years old. When she wakes up to crying children that don't have any food to eat. Can you imagine what that situation must be like? The entire tribe of the entire clan of Hashim and Al-Muttalib, who do you think, who is the cause of that? All of them, they are placed in a situation solely because of one person, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that is what Quraysh wanted to do. Quraysh wanted to, they did that to the entire two clans in order to get the clans to turn against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You say, why must we go through this because of you? We must now all suffer, our children must suffer, our family must suffer, because you, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you don't want to stop your message. Why must we go through all of this? And seriously, right? So they want to humiliate Rasulullah in front of his own family and get his family to cut supporting him and to stop supporting him. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She would pass by her mother and find her in severe hunger, yet trying to soothe her father's pain. Imagine the pain of Rasulullah. He walks and he sees children crying, women not finding anything to feed their children, children that are still infants, that are breastfeeding, but there's no milk, but the mothers don't have any milk to give them. The animals have all been slaughtered. There's no more animals to sacrifice. The meat is up, the milk is non-existent. There's nothing, absolutely nothing. And the Prophet is looking at this situation, and everyone is looking at him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Can you imagine the pain that Rasulullah is going through? Sayyidina Khadija is constantly comforting him and saying, don't worry, Allah will never forsake you. Oh Rasulullah, Allah will never forsake you. Sayyidina Fatima grows up in that house. She grows up in the house where she sees Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam going through this difficulty, and a wife that never even left his side. Through thick and thin, to ease through hardship. They had good times when business was good, and she, now when things was difficult and she lost everything, she never left the side of Rasul. She was supporting him. She didn't only support him, she comforted him. When he went through difficulties outside, he would come home and he would be assured that he was going to receive the comfort of his wife, Sayyidina Khadija. That's why there was no one like Sayyidina Khadija. There's no wife that Rasulullah had like Sayyidina Khadija. He loved her the most of all his wives. After he said the Khadija, said Aisha. But as a wife, from all his wives, he loved no one like Sayyidina Khadija. And no one supported him like Sayyidina Khadija. And therefore the Prophet ﷺ spoke about her. And he said, when Sayyidina Aisha came, and she said, when the Prophet ﷺ used to speak a lot about her in the house, after she passed away, he used to speak about her. And when her friends would visit, then you would become happy. When you would hear the friends of Khadija in the neighborhood, then you would at times slaughter an animal and you should take from the meat and you should give the meat to them. When family of Khadija, the children of Khadija, they used to come, Allahumma hala. He said, hala, it is here. The Prophet used to become excited. Why? Because it reminded him of Sayyidina Khadija. Sayyidina Aisha looks at him and says, Rasulullah, في حمراء شدقين قد أبدأ الله خير منها. A lady, she had red jaws, meaning indicating that Sayyidina is a tana khati. Indicating she was an old lady, nothing. She only had gums, but it means that Now old people's teeth fall out, it comes, they have gums, and like maybe your grandmother, your grandfather. So she used the metaphor of the red mouth, meaning that she's so old, Allah had replaced you with someone better than her, referring to herself, young, beautiful, was never married before. She has all the prospects of a beautiful wife. The Prophet says, he looks at her, his face became red, and says, Wallahi, ma abdalani Allahu khairan. I'm taking oath by Allah, Allah has not given me better than Khadija. Oh, Sayyidina Aisha, his wife, he's telling her in her face that Allah has not given you better than her. You think you're better than Khadija? Allah has not given you better than her. إنها وأستني حين حرمني إنها حينما كذبنا. She comforted me when people called me a liar. Not a liar in the sense that he lied. Meaning they didn't want to believe in him because they never called him a liar. But when people did not want to believe, she comforted me. وأعطتني حينما حرمني الناس. And she gave me when people did not want to give me. وفدتني بنفسها ومالها. And she sacrificed her life and her wealth because of me. فوالله ما أبدلني الله خيرا. I take an oath, Allah has not given you better. Sayyidina Aisha said, when I heard that, I knew that Khadija is a no-go grounds. And come Khadija, no, you quiet, you don't say anything. I will never be able to reach a state. And how can a person possibly think that they will reach the status of Sayyidina Khadija when Sayyidina Khadija received a special salam from Allah? Allah sent Jibreel alayhi salam down and said, Ya Jibreel, go to Muhammad and tell him that Allah sends salams to Khadija. And then Jibreel comes down and he says, Ya Muhammad, Inna salama yuqri Khadija salam, the salam, which is one of the names of Allah. Allah sends salams to Khadija. And he says, إن الله يبشرها ببيت في الجنة من قصب ما صخب فيه وننصب. Allah is giving her glad tidings. Imagine she received glad tidings while she was alive. Jibreel comes specially down and he says, Allah informed me that I must tell you that you must inform Khadija that Allah has already prepared for her a Jannah of which it is made of pearl, of ruby, of gemstones, and there is no rowdiness, there is no tiredness within it. It is just a Jannah for her. Allahu Akbar. So this is what she went through. Sayyidina Khadija would be strong, not wanting to show the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam weakness in herself, even though she was suffering. And not only was she suffering, she was very sick. She became ill. In fact, the people of Sirah, they say it was on account of the hisar of the Shi'ab of Abdul Muttalib. Because of this embargo of Abu Talib, right? The hisar of Abu Talib, that Khadija became so ill that ill led to her death, because it wasn't long after that she passed away. So she became so ill on account of that she eventually passed away afterwards. Not wanting to show the Messenger ﷺ the weakness in herself, so not as to have him grieve over her state. She was so worried about him ﷺ. She did not want to show her what she's going through, so that Rasulullah must be concerned about her as well. He's already going so much through because of his family, Muttalib and Bani Hashim. Why must I still add to his pain, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? She wanted to assist him in carrying his message, and the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was patient. Days passed at night, if the people of Makkah were still, and the eyes rested, and the world grew dark, they would hear the screams of the loud cries, infants crying from starvation. No sip of milk, no morsel of food, no crust of bread. As that Fatima's condition turned for the worse. She and her sister Kulthum were together. Zainab was with her husband and Ruqayya was in Abyssinia. So both experienced the boycott. Some said until Fatima's mouth developed ulcers, and her stomach shrank until it stuck to her back. Her stomach, her front, it became so thin that her front of her stomach touched the back of her. It was pressing against her back. That is how thin they became on account of, and so the strain on them reached levels it did. Khadija radiallahu fell ill, and Fatima and Kulthum nursed her. How many times did Fatima stay up at night with her mother in her severe sickness, tending to her and treating her with kindness? She would see amazing signs of character. She would learn noble qualities from her mother. If only women would learn them today, and that's the same to great ranks. Fatima would sit with her mother who was in agony. Khadija could barely speak. But if the Messenger ﷺ approached and Khadija felt the presence, she would rise up. She was sick, she was frail, she couldn't move. But as soon as she heard Rasulullah come, then she sat up and she gives the impression that she's healthy, she's fine, there's nothing wrong with her. Subhanallah. Allahu Akbar. She would rise and start moving and become lively and would conceal her illness, not wanting to show the Messenger ﷺ anything of her fatigue, which might cause him any sadness or anxiety for her, or make him bear more than what he already has been bearing. That was a very important lesson for our women. Husband comes with a big load, headache from work, comes home. The last thing he wants to hear is you. Sounds like a car is raving. Or bike is raving. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. You already heard it the whole day. What? The whole day in the streets. Now he comes home, and then it clocks, the waves clock. Got that? No. He comes home, he comes to contentment. He wants to come home to peace. He wants to come home to serenity. He wants to come home to love. He wants to come home to compassion. He wants to come home to Zalmiluni, Datiruni. Cover me, shield me, give me contentment. Now he's excited to go home. He's excited to go home. Otherwise, if that's not the case, then the person in the first behind earplugs before he comes out. They say, oh, Khatnovia is no. Allah must. Some men, they pretend even that they did, there's something wrong with them, just so that they don't fall into the Allahu Akbar. She loved her husband, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This, now, Fatima radiallahu anha saw this sight and learned from her mother this impatient, overflowing love. She saw this and she learned it from Sayyidina Khadija. This immense love that she had to give, this love that the world did not know, nor did the earth know of a woman similar to Allah. The earth did not see a woman like Sayyidina Khadija. She loved her husband to this level and to the extent and preferred him to herself, not wished to trouble him even by his witnessing that she was sick, so that not to have him distress over her. She would hide her sickness. She would hide her sickness. Not the person, the husband says, my kop seer, jy heel kop is seer. My kop is al seer heel weekend. Jy complain oor kop seer. No. When she would hear the Prophet needed something, she was immediately there. When she needed something, she would put her desires always behind. She would conceal her sicknesses because of the Prophet, to not cause Rasulullah to grieve or stress over her. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Wa radiyallahu ta'ala an Sayyidatina Khadija wa Sayyidatina Fatima wa ummahat al-mu'mineen jami' azwaj nabiyina Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa jami' banatihi. Ameen ya Rabb.
اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد
اللهم صل وسلم عليه.
الرب صلى دائما وسلم على المكرم شرا ما سلم الحادي وما تغنم بالإنعام شرا بذكر قدر المجتمع الجلال خير شرا بذكر يشفي من أسلم شرا صلى دائما وسلم على الله الله على المكرم شلنا ما زمن حالي وما تغنى لا يلا في الأغلام شلنا ملحوظ ذكره في الكتاب يتلى لا يلا علي صلى شلنا وفي الرسالة قلحه المعلم مجنى ومجنى شلنا يا ابن الزمان فينا يا ابن هيهة ما شلنا والله ما حد عننا ترجم كان ولا الشمس رب صلى دائما وسلم الله على المكرم شلنا من زمن عادي وما تغنم الله بالأغنام شلنا يا بجتي يا بكل الأجراح يا نور الأرواح شلنا يا من يا أبواب الفلاح مفتاح يا عين الأرواح شلنا يا من ناديك السرور والفرح يا الله والهم ينزل شلنا يا من ناديك السرور والفرح يا الله والهم ينزح شلنا رب صلى دائما وسلم يا الله على المكرم شلنا زمان هادي وما تغنم يا الله بين الأغنام شلنا أسود برايا بدل مجاهد يا الله لا تتمنى شلنا عبد بهم سماد فمن عاش يقال شلنا هيا يحصي مناطق فالأمر أعظم شلنا سنبقى للدين قيامي يا خير بني شلنا وسلم الله المكرم شلنا زمان حالي وما تغنم بين الأغنام شلنا بذكر طه مجدبا جلنا والأنس خيام شلنا ذكر وهذا القلوب مرنا الله يشفي بناسنا شلنا رب إيمان وسلم الله المكرم شلنا ما تنتمى وما تغنم اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله.
أن الله يمن علينا بكل خير وتعالى يبارك لنا في مجالسنا وفي أذكارنا وفي حلقاتنا. الله تعالى يهب لنا ثوابها وبركاتها على حتى وتجلياتها ولا يحملنا بركة مكان وبركة زمان وبركة صالح وبركة مقرب وعلى بركة من أي من عباد الله سبحانه وتعالى منتسبين إلى سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم من أصحاب القلوب المنورة المطهرة المصفاة عن الأدران والشوائب، والحقنا بأطيب الأطايب سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم يرزقنا به ربطا لا ينحل ويلقينا معه بالأعلى محل، وأن الله تعالى يفرج عن كروب أمتنا بنبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم في المشارق والمغارب، خصوصا وإخواننا، وعن أمة حبيب محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم في فلسطين غزة ورفح الضفة الغربية وبيت المقدس أبناء بيت المقدس السودان والصومال وليبيا وشامنا ويمننا. اللهم أعنهم وانصرهم وأجمع طبهم يا قوي يا متين على هذه النوايا وعلى كل صاحب الجامعة وعلى ما نوى سلفنا الصالح. وعلمنا ومشايخنا وعلمنا وقطب الزمان وعلمنا سيد محمد المسلم الفاتحة وإلى حضرة النبي.
اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على أصحاب الفاتحة. صل وسلم.
الحمد لله رب العالمين. من يؤذن؟ عندي درس